The paranormal world is one of moving shadows. Strange figures hidden just out of sight. Supernatural phenomena usually offers more questions than answers. Spirits, demons, and the undead. Join us as we journey into the darkness. With researchers, investigators, psychics, or mediums, each one getting us one step closer to the truth. I'm Sean Wagner, and these are the Paranormal Files.
All right, good evening. Actually, your host tonight will be me, Michael Purcell, filling in for Sean Wagner, who's under the weather, and we are joined by Josh Purvis from Searchers.
Hey,
Welcome,
what's up,
Josh.
everybody?
So, I guess the first question we like to ask is, what got you into paranormal?
So I'm a adventurer and I guess thrill seeker by trade. I've done everything from, rock climbing. I guess I should probably take a couple of steps even before then. I used to be the vocalist for a metal band and, spent a good 7 years of my life dedicated to that and touring and stuff of that nature. Fast forward a little bit, when I got married, I had to take a step back from that, of course, because touring all the time is not the not a way to get married, So, and then upon that, I went ahead and started. I got into rock climbing for a good while. That was pretty fun. Then I got into whitewater kayaking. And not the stuff, not the little stuff I was doing. By the end of it, I was going off waterfalls, 20-footers, stuff like that. Took a step back from that, got into filmmaking. And yeah, the rest is kind of history. I had a unexpected but profound moment in Savannah, Georgia at the Sorrel Weed House that kind of put me on the track for the paranormal stuff. So.
Okay, and I see that. I read that it's about 10 years. So
Yeah,
was that your first?
It's been about 10 years ago.
Okay.
That the one that I can at least remember, that would be my first arguably paranormal interaction, if you will.
Okay. And that was something that was unplanned. I mean, this was just
so it was unplanned. Me and my wife, we frequent Savannah, or used to, at least. We need to go back. It's home away from home, if you will. We had our honeymoon there.
Nice.
So it's a very important place for us. And so we were just down on a day trip and took a tour of the Sorrel Weed House and, snapping photos just with our cell phone as we're going through the tour, doing the whole touristy thing. And then as we were leaving out of Savannah, I stopped and pulled off to get gas, and she was searching through my phone, looking at all the photos that we had taken, and she finds one, and she says, "Hey, take a look at this one. It looks like there's like a woman standing here." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, whatever." And then so I grab it and take a look at it, and sure enough, you can see a distortion in the photo. And of course, I'm looking at it on my cell phone, so I'm like, I really need to put this up on a computer. So I did that. Threw it in the Photoshop and did some color correcting to it to help bring out some of what I was seeing, and sure enough, it looks like a woman in a colonial dress looking out the basement window, if you will. So, I don't even know the right name for them, but the little shallow windows that go across where people can look out a basement area. That's where she was standing. And so then my next thing to start, that got me really intrigued. It got me intrigued. So I went and started researching, is this a phenomenon that people have there? And sure enough, and they see her all over the place, a lady. And some people have even seen her like bone and flesh, like us.
Oh, wow.
Full body apparition, like out on the porch and stuff of the Sorrel Weed House. So that was pretty eye-opening for me, because there's nothing better than finding stuff of that nature and then not really and not expecting to do that at all.
Oh yeah, and to have that apparition and that picture, Yeah, I can see what got you interested. I mean, that's definitely a good story. Sorry about that.
Oh, you're okay.
So tell me, you said you're into filmmaking prior to coming on. You said you're into filmmaking.
Oh yeah. So what really got me into filmmaking was taking a step back from playing music. All my life since I was, I would say, 6th grade or so, I had been into music. So trying to find like another creative outlet was important to me after I'd taken a step back from that. And I got the opportunity and I've had multiple opportunities since to work on movie sets and whatnot as a younger me in my 20s or so. And I was really intrigued by the amount of work that goes into it. I was fortunate to be a stand-in / extra for like one of the main actors on a movie called The Crazies. And so I really got to go work on set every day because of that. I spent a good 20 days or so filming with them. And then right off the back of that, I've been on The Walking Dead, I've been on the originals, and a couple of other movies since then.
Oh, nice.
So seeing all of that, I do have some friends / mentors locally for me that are freelance filmmakers, and they were then, still are today. And so I decided I'd try my hand at doing it myself. And so I spent a long time. It was a learning curve, right? Taking as much work as you can get, weddings, music videos, commercials, you name it. Anytime I could spend on set, I was doing it. And so then once you get to that point, it goes from that to, okay, now I feel like I can start, taking official jobs and making money and stuff of that nature. Which is kind of where Shane and I first, and Shane Pittman, he's the other portion of Searchers, interacted with each other. It would have to be close to around 10 years ago. So, I had a filmmaking side of things, and I was already actively into the paranormal at that point. And it was important to me to try and capture my experiences with the paranormal in a way that a viewer would really, to try and translate my feelings across the screen, right? Talking with Shane at the time, it was before he was ever on the Holzer Files, and we would talk shop about the paranormal all the time. He was doing his thing, I was doing mine. We're both located in Georgia, but we never there was very few times we actually crossed paths in that, but we would always talk back and forth about everything. So during that time, I'm filming all kinds of stuff. I've filmed some stuff for the Travel Channel back in the day on When Vacations Attack and stuff like that. Freelance, selling footage, stuff of that nature. Fast forward to, so even back then we were talking about the idea of Searchers, and we literally called it that back then. But it was like we would talk about it, and me and him would kind of just be going our separate ways at that time. Fast forward to after he was done with his first season of the Holzer Files and getting ready to go out and film the second season, he, calls me up and he's like, "Hey, I have this event in Louisiana. You should come out with me." He knew at the time that I had some experience in running events and stuff, and that's a story for another day.
Yeah.
I spent a good long stint doing that stuff. That's where I come to know like Adam Berry, Steve, Tango, all of those guys.
Yeah.
Know them from working with an event company way back then. So anyway, he was like, "Yeah, you should come out." And I was like, "You know what? This time I'm going to say yes, and we're going to go do this." So we actually made a road trip out of it, drove out to Louisiana, did his event, and it just the way we investigated together and the way that we got to like spend some good time with each other, we were like, man, we really should try and push searches again. So at that point, we all really were like, okay, we have to do this and we got to do it. We got to go all in this time. Let's not back off of it. Let's keep pushing it. And that's what we did. He flew out that day to go start filming on the second season of the Holzer Files. And that's the day that we started work in the background of searchers and what we were going to try and do. So, you know, fast forward a few months after that, we're out filming our first investigation and whatnot. It's on our YouTube. It's the first episode. It's at Sweet Spring Sanitarium. We've done a lot of live streams, been fortunate to be in some locations like Capricorn Records here locally, which is like the birthplace of Southern rock, if you will. It's where the Allman Brothers were. Charlie Daniels has been there. Eagles, you know what I mean?
Some pretty big names.
Yeah, so it's a big deal. A lot of people talk about like Sun Studios, where Johnny Cash and all them. So if you could picture that, but for Southern rock, that's Capricorn, right? And so they invited us out to come investigate that place because they were having anomalies on their security cameras. So we live streamed that. We live stream a bunch of locations. And so that was kind of our bread and butter for a little while. People really resonated with the like the real, I guess, the reality and uniqueness of live stream investigations. It was really kind of before it blew up to where it is today. But you know, me being a filmmaker, that was not enough for me. So I was like, man, we really need to, like, we should try filming like an episode, you know? And we ended up putting it on YouTube this year and it did extremely well. It's gotten like 3,000 or 4,000 watch hours on it. Some insane number. Yeah, so,
That's good. That's good.
yeah, that's pretty good. So, yeah, so that, you know, every day we're still perfecting our craft. I'm perfecting my craft when it comes to filmmaking. That kind of led us into having talks with like networks and bigger production companies, if you will, to help them start developing other shows. So in the background of Searchers, Shane and I do that as well. We lean typically into like the horror, paranormal reality, or true crime. We have a very like unique way of approaching filming and developing pitch decks and stuff like that. And it resonated a lot for people at the day, which was humbling for us because we didn't know the ins and outs of any of that. Right. I just knew how to film. Like we know how to do that. We know how to, you know, make a story out of reality. So it was humbling to have these people, these veterans come to us and be like, man, these are really good, you know, and then be blown away of the amount of like time we were on set and the amount of money it cost us to do these things. Right. It was like way under what they expected it to be. So, and so that's what we do today. We have a show on Scare Network TV coming out today. Actually, the first episode's called Darknessinsuburbia. So we were partly producers on that. We came out. So, you know, you'll see me in shot a lot of times. I'll be out shot filming a lot of times too. So, you know, if you could have multiple bodies, I guess that would work. But yeah, so that's what I do. You know, that's what I know. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
That sounds pretty interesting. So you wear a lot of hats then when you're
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
When you investigate, are you there? What's your technique? Are you there to prove, disprove, or?
So, you know, I think for us, it was not about that, right? And it comes back to we've dealt with a lot of private residential cases and such. And for me, it doesn't matter if I think that it's real to that person, right? That has witnessed it or that is having a hard time in their house or whatnot. So it was more about just trying to communicate. If something there, if we don't get communication, we don't get communication. If we don't, it was less about data collecting and more about the experience to see if anything that if we are able to communicate and talk, does any of that cross-reference to what the homeowners are experiencing? And so that's kind of the way we look at it. and it's not to knock anybody that collects evidence, but there's so many people that do, like, and there's so many EVPs that have been captured, so many, all of these things. It's like, okay, we have to kind of quit trying to wonder whether or not there's something going on. Clearly there's something going on. And maybe the work that we do today and the communications that we have with whatever we're dealing with on the other side will matter 100 years from now, and maybe they can really figure this stuff out for us. I think if you look at the days of like Hans Holzer and the Warrens and stuff of that nature, we're probably better today and more utilized and have better devices today to pick up on things that they weren't able to do back then. And I hope the same for future generations as well. But I also hope that they can look at the work that we've done today and use that as a reference and a guide, if you will, to maybe bring us that much further from making the paranormal normal.
That's a good point. Very good. Now, do you prefer like private residence or locations that are known to be haunted? Like,
I would say a mixture of both.
okay.
And it, that would also, I would throw in the fact, we do a lot of events and we travel around. We like to try and mix all of that up throughout the year. We think they all have their place, right? Mm-hmm. Private resident cases become harder and harder for us to do because there's so many, like, we have to be really careful. We do get, like, people will send us locations to check out. Maybe they were asked about, somebody needing help and it's local to us. So they'll email us and say, hey, can you guys look into this stuff? But we never go straight into like boots on the ground, right? I mean, there's so many questions. A lot of it has to do with like the mental health of the person, what's going on before we can ever even get to the point of like, all right, well, we'll go out and check it out now. It's just, you have to walk a narrow line, if you will, because you just don't know the state of mind for people these days. So
true.
And you don't want to hurt them if they're having a mental health crisis or something of that nature. So while I like doing residential cases and private cases, there is a lot more work involved, I would say, when it comes to that, because this is somebody's life at stake, Darknessinsuburbia is a great example of that, where we actually, that whole docuseries is around a suburban neighborhood, houses are built in like the 2020s, I want to say. But they're all having paranormal activity in their homes and don't know what to do and don't realize where they're located at. Like, they don't realize that there used to be something else there. I'm not going to go give it all away. There used to be something there on the land they didn't know about.
Okay.
And so it kind of like unravels for them, because this is like their starter homes, nice suburbia town. And now they're all being like, they're constantly having to deal with paranormal activity. And it's not just one family. I mean, I think we went to 5 separate houses while we were there.
Oh, wow.
And if this series resonates with people enough, we'll go back out for a second season and go see more people, because there's still more people talking about it there. It just took them saying, one neighbor saying, oh, I have this going on in my house. And then all of a sudden, all the other neighbors are like, we weren't going to say it because we didn't want to be weird. We didn't want to be the weird one. But we have things going on in our home too.
Anything malicious, or is it just
so this one, I hate using the word malicious and negative, but I think there's really something dark going on in this place.
Okay.
I don't know, man. And it really does. That whole investigation really sticks with me, because these are families that are having to live here. Some of them are single parents with kids and little kids and stuff like that. I mean, there were times where we were like, man, we can't even we can't let these people come back to their house tonight until we figure out how to like at least calm this down. Like today, you know, at the end of the day, we have a better idea of what is going on, but what to do about it, we're still unsure. So, yeah, more to come on that. I hope.
That sounds very interesting. Yeah. So do you have any skills or?
Oh yeah. So, all of this sounds like a lot, and it is a lot, but on top of that, I am a mechanical engineering technician. That's why my full-time day job, if you will.
Okay.
It often feels like you have two full-time jobs now, you know. So yeah, I really, my expertise is process controls and repairing and troubleshooting machinery.
And anything paranormal, like medium, psychic, any kind of?
I am not. So searchers as a team, Shane and I have largely used our investigating style and built it around like sensory deprivation or manipulation and stuff to mimic things that you would see from a medium, if you will. That just tends to be the way that the results come out of these things, right? And we often use it as like maybe we make the reference that it's like mediumship on training wheels, if you will. So I certainly don't claim myself to be a medium. However, I feel like a lot of the way that we investigate has to do with those kinds of things. So
Okay. So any one particular couple? I mean, you've already investigated so many places. Anything sticks out? Like there was this one time, or there was these couple times?
Yeah, so obviously the whole Darknessinsuburbia case, which was, we did that one just this year, and all the locations I've been to, did not expect that one to be the way that it was. You know, I've been in some pretty like rundown place where thousands of people have died, and this place was more malicious than any of that stuff, you know. So
Yeah. How long did you film that? How long were you there filming?
We were there for like 4 days, but there
Okay.
was a whole crew of us, right? So we were like constantly working on that stuff. If we go back, we'd like to go back for a full week or more and spend some more time, because you know the first season of this, I really view it as more you start to see the unraveling of what the story is and what's happening there. Apart from that, I would say Sweet Springs Sanitarium. I had a really profound experience there. Won't go into a lot of detail with it, but you can see it on our YouTube episode of Sweet Springs.
Okay.
It's just a long, drawn out experiment with the Estes method, and yeah, so it would take up a lot of time.
Now, what is the Estes method?
Yeah, so the Estes method is if you blindfold yourself and then you put noise canceling headphones on,
Okay.
and we run our headphones to an SB7 Spirit Box. We also have the SB7 Pro now that we're using. And so you can't hear or see any outside influences, and somebody from the outside or a witness, if you will ask questions and look for to see if anything correlates, right? To anything that you pick up on in the Spirit Box. So at Sweet Springs, we used that experiment, except we were in 2 adjoining rooms from each other. One of us was doing the Spirit Box, your default Estes method, if you will. I was just in the other room with noise canceling headphones on, white noise going into them, just white noise, and a blindfold on. And we were in the rooms by ourselves, just had cameras on tripods like facing us. And so my job was to just ask questions, right? And I remember thinking, man, this is like, how is this even going to work? This is going to be stupid, right? I have to ask these questions. Like, what am I even supposed to ask? And then our third guy, who was Ray Causey at the time, was in the other room doing the typical Estes method. And then Shane was on the outside with we had 2 camera guys with us that were actually filming him. Was on the outside just kind of monitoring to see if the conversation between Ray and I was actually happening, right? And lo and behold, it was. I mean, we didn't even know it at the time, and really we didn't know the extent of it until it was all put together. But yeah, so questions that I'm asking, he's responding directly to them. And you'll hear him say things sometimes in that episode that is not even in reference to me, but in reference to Shane outside, telling them to do things and to watch what's going to happen. And things happen to me. And so what's really great about that is the 2 camera guys, they had never been into anything paranormal. Friends of mine from the field of filmmaking, so they didn't know what to think of it. You know what I mean? I mean, you hear them in the background make comments and they're like, what is happening?
Perfect.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah. So they leave with a lot of questions for sure.
Sounds really, really interesting with that method. So does that help, like with your blindfold, is it meant to enhance other?
Yeah. So it's really meant to, 1, you're not being subjective to your surroundings, right? And then 2, when you can't see anything with your eyes and then you're using white noise in your ears you actually start picking up on words a lot better. You become like in a trance, if you will.
Okay.
The longer you do it. And so you quit thinking about trying to see and you're more focused on what you're trying to hear,
Okay. That's a pretty good approach. I like that.
Yeah, it works well for us. We've used that in several different ways. The typical Estes method is one person doing it, but we've altered it in a lot of different ways just to see if we get different results.
And have you?
Oh yeah, we did one experiment at a place in Louisiana where one person was doing the Estes method. The other one was using a device, we call them the mind blockers, and they are kind of they're glasses you put on that have headphones running to them, and they have white noise in those headphones. It's a specific frequency of white noise. The glasses have red LEDs that blink, and so you close your eyes, and those blink at a specific frequency as well. And it's the wildest thing, man. Like, you will start seeing things the longer you keep them on. And so we did an experiment of like, if all 3 of us are in a room, we'll have one person witnessing everything the whole time. If somebody is picking up on stuff with the Estes method and somebody is describing what they're seeing, does any of that relate to each other? In the way that we put a little bit of a twist on it too. We did we call it like a musical chairs type thing where we would tap each other in and out and swap the person. So nobody knows where anybody is at any point. So there's no like preconditioned notion about what's going on. And there was one point in time where Shane was doing the mind blockers and I was watching it happen, and Ray was doing the Estes method. And Shane says, I see these 2 little girls, they're talking, but I can't make out what they're saying. It's like they're in a different language. And I'm kid you not, 2 seconds later, Ray's saying, I hear talking. I can't make out what it is though, because it's like it's in a different language. And I'm telling you, my jaw dropped to the floor. I'm like, what is happening? Like, that can't happen. Right.
Wow.
And so it's like, what do you make of that? Like, this guy there, you got one guy using a spirit box, the other guy's not using a spirit box, just has white noise. There's no way that he would know this. Like, there's no way that they would. And a matter of fact, when Shane went in to do the mind blocker experiment, I was the one on the Estes method. So he doesn't even know that portion, right? He doesn't even know that Ray is sitting there doing it. And when I pull him out of it, he looks at me like I have 4 eyes, because he's like, it's taken him a second to realize that, like, we've switched, right? Mm-hmm. When he went into the experiment with Ray in my spot and came out with Ray in the other spot, you know?
Yeah.
It was interesting.
Oh, sounds very interesting. Yeah. So I've never done that, but it sounds really good. All right. So I know we're getting close to the 30-minute mark, and we're going to try to make this to 2 episodes. Is there anything you want to plug? Any upcoming events?
Yeah. So this, we have a couple more events for the year right now. Shane is actually up in Kentucky at Scarefest. And then this weekend, I will be doing a local event here in Perry, Georgia. It's a free event. So if you're local to Georgia, come out. I'll be speaking. In December, we will both be going to Old South Pittsburgh Hospital, December 9th, with Brian and Rochelle from Ghost Hunters, A&E's Ghost Hunters, and also Mustafa and Brandon Alves from A&E's Ghost Hunters are going to be there. So it's a cancer charity to raise money for a guy that has terminal cancer. So Shane and I both have lost parents to cancer. So any cancer thing, really resonates with us and hits home. So nice. We try and help out anytime we can.
Thank you. That's nice. That's good. All right. And then also, I just want to say that the Searchers website is searchersbelieve.com, and you can be found on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook, and Linktree, and also on Twitter at the 3 Searchers. And you also have on, if I say this incorrectly, pardon me, Patreon.
Yep, that's it.
Patreon, the Searchers Believer Club is your channel.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Well, hang tight there, Josh. I'm gonna go play the outro, and then we'll come right back.
All right, sounds good.
All right. So you've been watching Paranormal Files with Josh Purvis from the Searchers. This is a super show. So if you watch this far, go ahead and like and subscribe. So next time a Paranormal Files episode comes on, you'll be notified. Also, if on Facebook, like it and share. We'd appreciate it. Thank you.
This has been a CARCUniversal production.